back to the Berg Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And today we're talking about equipment, and specifically equipment damage.
It's a fun topic, right?
Exciting. It's an exciting one.
I think it's a yearly PSA, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
maybe we should do it more.
more than once every year.
Yeah, maybe we
might
need to do
be
it
necessary.
We usually do it when something comes up that reminds us to refresh everyone's memory on some things.
Yeah, so it wasn't that long ago, an episode or two, we were talking about summer and the challenges that going bring, and it does seem to coincide sometimes with equipment damage, right? We're moving more pieces of equipment. We got more things going on site, more people working with varying levels of experience, and that usually is a time where you got to be thinking about spatial recognition, proper procedure, and avoiding equipment damage.
You know what's so hard about the equipment damage for me is I need to knock on something, right? But knock on wood, it bugs me because it's normally either inexperienced or careless, right? It's rarely does something happen and we're like, oh, that happened like an accident. You know what I mean? In other words, you're driving down the street and somebody runs a red light, and what are you going to do? You get in an accident. But that's not how equipment damage happens. Equipment damage is not, God forbid, one of our rock trucks running into another rock truck. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's somebody just doing something that if we were at safety day and we said, hey, we showed them a video, they'd be like, yeah, come on, guys, this is silly. You're making us watch this video of something that's never going to happen. But we could we could make up drawings of what's happened of our own stuff, and the past, 10 days has been that, it's been 4 or 5 incidents. If you go back 2 weeks, probably 6 incidents, and all bunched up and all just, I have trouble finding anything other than careless that is either just pure carelessness or inexperience and just something happened that you wouldn't expect. There's one that was just inexperience.
Sure.
Is it also loss of focus?
I don't know.
I really think that there's something to that, right? I mean, because, listen, you're in a machine for 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day. And, if you're in a hoe and you're doing a pile move, you're moving a quarter turn for 10 hours. And, our lives are so set up that, it sounds basic. You're scooping, you're lifting, you're dumping. You're scooping, you're lifting, you're dumping. But you're doing it so much. I remember when I was doing it, we had used to count trucks.
Sure.
And if I was counting my head, I would lose count. I literally had a clicker in the machine because you're just doing it. You just keep doing it. And all of a sudden, shoot, was that number 7 or 12?
Strokes on the golf course.
I got to get my little clicker out
I
for
need a
that.
clicker because there's so many. I lose count. No, I do. I think there's something to that, though. None of it is mindless, but it is monotonous to some extent, right? Depending on the task.
Right. Well, because it would be interesting to see how many of the situations happen on something that is of that nature. If you're digging around an electric line or you're digging around something tight, you're focused 100% because you know that if that tooth goes over 2 inches too far, or you're trying to dig up a water, you know what I mean? Your full focus is on whatever that is. Yeah. Whereas if it's big spaces, or the other thing is people trying to do a little bit more than what they should do with a piece of equipment. Sure. Either way, but you wonder how much of that ties to it because you have to focus, even though it is something that is monotonous and repetitive.
Right.
You got to find a way.
Stay engaged, right?
You know what I struggle with that though, Ford, as an excuse, as a justification, right? Rationalization is, and I'm not going to name anybody because I'm not going to jinx our guys, but there's guys that have thousands of hours and they don't make that mistake. You know what I mean? They don't. You know what I mean? So if anybody was going to be bored with it, it would be somebody doing a monotonous task in terms of let me change that word, doing a simple task that we do repetitively over and over again, that has done it over and over again. So we have some guys that could do some of this work in their sleep.
But do we ask them what they've, I've never done that, right? Because that's not been a thing, but it's you go to somebody that has put 30,000 hours on their butt in the same machine, and you wonder what, Are they making a game out of it where they're like, I'm going to try and do this better. I'm going to try this. Like, what they have to do something, because I mean, you could say 8 hours or 10 hours is tough. 30, 40,000 hours. That's way past like
that's
losing.
past tough.
I was actually going there in my head. I was like, are these guys doing like the gamifying it somehow? And before gamifying things was actually
Before it became a $10
Yeah,
word.
buzzword.
before it became a buzzword, like to keep young people interested in doing stuff, you have to gamify things now. Like, were these guys already doing it in some form or fashion? They had a mechanism somehow entertained or engaged their brain, and it prevented them from letting the routine
Letting
or
it slip.
repeat tasks.
Yeah, because I mean, so in one of the instances, in the dozer instance with the door, right? So I heard about it, and then I saw the write-up and I saw the pictures, and I was like, I'm not going to lie to everybody. I literally pulled up online a picture of the 51s because I was like, I swear these doors wrap all the way around the back, right? Like the 63s do, the 53s do, the old Cats do, the Tracos do. And I like looked at it and I was like, there's no way that door opens all the way. Is it one side door opens? And then I saw Justin Boyer like a day later, and he was running a Cat, and he flipped the door around. As soon as he did it, I was like, neither of the 51 doors flip all the way back. And he was like, no, they go like halfway or, halfway, a quarter, or whatever, 30% open. I was like, but they're over the tracks. And like, I looked at it.
Inside the tracks.
They're inside the tracks.
Yeah.
So that means it had to fall onto the machine. Like it had to top a little bit.
Yeah.
But I like looked at it and I was like, it's not a great design that the door sticks out that way on this particular machine. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's so many that I'm like going through in my head trying to like justify or rationalize like why it's okay, how it could have happened, how it could have been avoided. But it's that one's so simple. The other ones are a little bit different because they're equipment to equipment sort of issues. Whereas this was almost, I don't want to say self-inflicted, but like nothing was collided with. It just was the way it went. But I looked at it and like in that sense, that one, I think from the 30,000 hour standpoint would be a little bit of an experience thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like you got to know how close you can get to a pile before something could risk sliding on you. Well, and if some of these 30,000 guys who we know have run next to these piles over and over again, they may not have either put themselves in that spot or they may have said, you know what, I got to have all doors closed when I'm in proximity. So I think there's definitely an experience thing.
I have no experience operating equipment, right? Like I've skid loaders and telehandlers is the extent.
We're just waiting for the rodeo. We're going to put you in a piece and see how you do.
Yeah. But, the more I talk to guys who operate a lot, and, I've had some really good conversations with Stetson because he's been involved in some of these reviews and write-ups. And, like when Stetson describes it or when he's talking to an operator, and it's almost to me the same way you'd tell somebody to like think about things if they were about to take a picture of it, right? Like the way you walked up to something is almost never the right angle to take a picture of it. So just because that's how it was when you got there or you pulled up to it in a certain fashion doesn't mean it's necessarily the right way to approach it. And that's how the conversation around the dozer and the pile kind of went. And he said, can you like look at it for a second and say if I had come at this angle or if I had back drug and then pushed or any of these things, how this wouldn't have happened? And the operator was like, yeah, absolutely. Hindsight's 20/20, but if I had taken a few seconds, thought about the approach, thought about what I was trying to do, the space I had to work with, I probably should have approached it from a different angle. And I mean, that kind of spoke to me a little bit just because I think that it's probably human nature to address the thing from the way you walked up to it or the way you've been doing it just because it feels routine. It feels like natural. I don't know. Maybe I'm way off base here.
Well, this ties into it, like you said, but one of our 30,000 plus hour guys, right? Like when you watch him, if you're watching him for a microcosm, he doesn't look fast.
He's slow.
But then there's like, we used to have times when him and another guy had the same dozer on the job.
I was going the same place for it.
Right? And the other guy was blasting through it.
Just run the tracks off the machine.
Fast as he could. Like he was like a racetrack driver.
Yeah.
But you know who got done first? Because he didn't have to go back and retouch it because every time he touched something,
Smooth.
yeah,
Smooth.
smooth as fast, blah blah blah, the whole speed, right?
Smooth as fast.
But it's just funny because that might be part of that gamification of him being like, when I get done this spot, I'm not going to touch it again.
Yeah.
The other guy was like, I blasted 20 loads out, but now I got to spend 4 more hours fine tuning,
making it look finished. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so, you know, that's the kind of what you're saying, like walk up to it slowly. It's like, okay, 2 extra seconds, deep breath, take a peek at it, check it, you know, that kind of thing versus, you know,
Yeah.
full speed ahead.
Well, and
What's
you know-
the end? Like, you know, start with the end in mind. You know, what's
Right.
the end I'm trying to accomplish, and is this the right spot to start from?
Well, even in a funny twist where you said about golf with the clicker, like
yeah, right.
I would lay you odds. Ford putts one-handed, right? For people who don't know, he's going to putt one-handed. It's just aggravating to other people.
It's
It
out there
unnerves them.
now, buddy. It's out there.
It's out there, right? But I would lay you odds if you actually watch us that the effectiveness of our putting is directly related to how much we actually look at what we're putting. You know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, even though Ford doesn't look like he looked at it, like, you know, if I'm playing with Ford, it doesn't happen much anymore because we don't have any time, but he would say, you know, like, all right, I just want you to hit it to here and aim, you know, a half a cup outside the cups. Like, I'm just trying to hit it at the hole in the ground. Like, you know what I mean? I hadn't even considered some of the things he was seeing in the ground in terms of grade change or anything else. And I don't see it. And there's some similarity there that if you walk around and you see it, like some of these guys with that kind of seat time, they see it. Like they walk up and they see things differently than some of our inexperienced people because of experience. You know, and that sort of, in a different funny thing, the girls were driving like a mule, like a
Gator.
utility, a gator, right? And they can drive go-karts, they can drive dirt bikes, they're fine. None of the things that they drive have reverse. When I had them drive the mule, we were moving some wood, and you would have think like I added a whole new thing. Like I hadn't considered it being a different thing. They couldn't steer the right way.
go
One of them
backwards.
almost drove through the garage door because they like put it in the wrong gear. Like I only changed a very minor thing, and so that goes back to a different thing where we always say about throwing people in rock trucks. You know what I mean? Like minor changes in what you're asking people to do might not actually be minor. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like when I first heard about the truck incident, I assumed it was on slopes. I assumed it was backing down a bench. And it wasn't. Like, it's in my head, the only way that could happen was if we were either going way too fast, which has happened in the past,
Sure.
right? Trying to create production, or if we were on a condition that would make it difficult and you just misjudge a little bit, bed tips over, it happens. And when I heard how it happened, I was like, this doesn't even make any sense. How did this happen? And Stetson said, well, it was just inexperience. Like, you know, that's all it was. It was just inexperience and probably never happen again. You know, happened once, never going to happen to them again.
Yeah. Well, they went through it. We've all
Yeah, and that's
all been there, right?
That's why he's saying for Stetson it was like, and he said to me, he
It's
said,
a way to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
Right, it's not the
yeah,
best way to learn
yeah.
it, but sometimes it's the only way to learn things. You know what I mean? Is because you don't know. Like I always joke about, you don't know where the edge is until you're over the edge. You just hope you're lucky enough that when you get to the edge, it doesn't tip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But sometimes it does. So there's different ways that the incidents occur, but the way they happened all at once was really, you know, it's unnerving because you're like, okay, what is going on?
We used to talk about this when it came to GPS, right? Like sometimes we try and find ways to accelerate the education path. You know, like a 30,000-hour guy without GPS could be just as effective. Well, still way more effective than a lesser experienced person with GPS in the right situation with the right knowledge of how that technology works, all of those things, right? And you know, I think that's going to be forever a struggle with the how we like to do things. We like to find young people who are interested in the trades and want to learn and want to grow and eager to be here and show up and are reliable and work till the job gets done, right? That, you know, but they don't get 30,000 hours of experience without 30,000 hours. And so,
Right.
Well, so you're saying that made me think like, okay, is it time for what was that thing we tried here, but it didn't work very well?
the
Remote control
simulator,
simulator, right?
Yeah.
But the tough part about the simulator, I mean, we've tried them at different places, like some of the best ones they make. It doesn't put you in real world conditions.
Sure.
You know,
Well, it doesn't really simulate the way that
it feels.
Yeah, like the way that we're describing that the incidents occur, like in
No
my
one would
mind-
design that as part of the program.
right. Like there's
It's like sabotage to try
Right, because
to
in other
make you
words,
avoid incidents.
like so taking the one where the counterweight contacts, right? Like I'm not saying that you couldn't get too close to a machine in a simulator and hit it. You could,
Sure.
but you didn't knowingly do it in the machine. You were aware of where the machine's tail were. You either didn't notice the person there outright, which, you know what I mean? In other words, either you didn't know they were there or you don't know how big the machine is. But the simulator would tell you made a mistake, but you can't visibly see it because there's not another machine sitting behind you. You're looking at a screen that tells you something's behind you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it does not replace physical operating of machines, but there's probably something there, and like kind of like a comfort level goes up when you know how it's supposed to look and feel.
I think it works really well for getting the feeling of how you and learning the actual motions, the
and things
controls.
like that could work.
But spatial awareness that you started with, that's the thing that has to happen right there. And really, all five, however many incidents there were, every one of them was really about spatial awareness of where you were, either in relationship to actual piece of ground on a slope or another piece of equipment. Every one of them was, except for one. And that one, for me, was so careless that someone just stopped thinking for a minute, and that's what happens because it only takes a minute to make that kind of mistake.
Yeah, less, right.
Second.
One of the things I was starting to get there too with the experience curve thing is like we can't magically snap our fingers, and maybe there's some things we can do to try and supplement experience like the simulators. Yeah, but like what role does our field leadership play if we're starting to put folks in situations that they're probably prepared for but not experienced with? Like I was trying to think about that, and some of these situations where the experience curve might not be there, they are doing things that they've done but maybe on a limited basis. Like is there that like 30-second safety check that like that? I don't know. I'm asking because
I just don't think. I think it's the same thing as I'm saying with the screen thing. Like, okay,
right.
So even with a bedroll,
even if someone tells you like, hey, watch out, you don't know.
Right, but I mean, it's more about like, okay, you're going to sit up in this cab and I'm going to stand behind you and you're going to have to yell at how many feet away do you think I am?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's probably more realistic. That's not saying about the pile, but what it's saying is what's your judgment of you're looking in mirrors to back up.
Right.
If I stand 10 feet behind the machine, do you think I'm 10 feet away or do you think I'm 30 feet away? Because if you think I'm 30 feet away, you're going to get closer to that perspective. Or like I'm saying, if you do it on a simulator, something pops over and it goes, restart the game. You don't have that same,
how many
experience.
Lives do you get?
Yeah, it's oh, reboot. But, some of those things that you can't, time is the only teacher.
Yeah.
It's just the reality that, things are expensive, and it's also just that people are, if you get everybody that has 30,000 hours in, there's just not that many of them around, and then they're usually doing a different task or a different job because of that experience. They're not doing those particular things. Yeah. I mean, I remember when we did our first cap, and the first time we went over the hillside on a slope, like some of the drivers didn't even want to do it. And then like one guy did it, and once they saw that it could be done and it was done safely, then all of a sudden by the end of the job, everybody was comfortable with it. But it took that one crazy farmer to be like, oh yeah, no problem. Just whoosh. And I'm like, I still remember we were talking about the other day at a picnic about like first time you take a roller over the side of a 3-to-1 slope.
Yeah.
And you realize you only got one set of wheels that's going to stop you, and you're going down that slope, and you're just like you're flat, and you just tip over the edge. It feels like a roller coaster start, right? You're like, and even I don't know how many times I've done it now. Every time first time I do it on a job, until you get comfortable with it, you're like, all right, we're good. But just
even just when you put the dozer or the loader over,
anytime you tip,
it's going to tip, but you just you think it's going to. You don't realize it's going to tip as much as it does. You know what I mean? Like just as many times as you've done it, and even when like sometimes we would drive a truck over a slope coming up or down. One time I remember I was taking you guys up, I think, to either Brad's or or I think it was Brad's. And it was one of the days when we go out with everybody. I think Tracy was with us. And I went up the slope and everybody was pretty okay on the road. It was an access road. And then I went down the access road. When I came over that crest, everybody like grabbed their seats and were like, and I was fine. And I was like, it's going to be okay. We're going to slide a little bit here, but we're going to manage it as we come down the hill. But those guys do that every time in tracked machines. And it feels the same, when you tip over the top. And for the other thing I was thinking about with the pile, specifically with the truck roll, right, is some of that, I don't know the situation because I wasn't there, but some of it could also have to do with whoever was pushing off the pile. Because in other words, if you push off the pile, a lot of times, like when I, and that would, back when you and I would have to be in the field because we didn't have enough people at times, when I would like get tasked with that because I was responsible, a dozer enough operator or loader that I could do that. And you want to like push the middle of the pile up, but you always sort of like left almost like a guardrail on a little bit of the edge of the pile so that it wasn't all tracked in perfect so you could see it. So I don't know the situation, but in other words, if somebody had like graded the pile off perfect, it's a lot harder to see the edge because it's not, you don't drive over the edge most times. Like you just get too close and it slides a little bit and it only has to slide a couple feet and then you're off balance and if you're loaded bed tips.
Well, if you're a truck driver, like you always hope that you're watching the tracks before you. Because if you're riding in the tracks before you and that person didn't have an
if
issue.
they were fine, you're fine.
Right.
No problem. Yeah.
But the always thing is if you're running 2 rows wide or 4 rows wide,
Right.
whatever you're dumping, and the other row's full, so now you're the first one on the
Other row.
next set.
Yeah.
There's no, because the dozer's already graded that off. But otherwise, like, all right, I see their tracks, wherever their tracks go, I'm going in that same spot and I'm just going to come out of there.
I mean, going back to landfills, when you're talking about going over, the first one, even now, it's uncomfortable when you go to do it. But once somebody else has done it, it can be uncomfortable, but there's still a sense that, well, somebody else backed down and I'm in the exact condition I did. I just got to do exactly what they do and I'll be okay.
One of the things I was thinking about in the inexperienced scenario is like, and I don't even know if this was a factor, but it just kind of popped into my head. Like when you're teaching a young person how to drive a car, their confidence goes up so much faster than their experience does. And like I think that's easy to come into play too. Like if you're feeling pretty good about what you're doing and you've done it a couple times, you don't necessarily anticipate how quickly a situation or a circumstance can change, and where the edge is, right? Like
7 days you did it perfectly, and the
8th day, you're like you're cruising now because you feel good about it, but your tires roll 1 revolution too far, and all of a sudden you're deeper into the slope than you expected, or whatever the case may be. I don't even think that necessarily played a role in one of our recent incidents, but it just kind of popped into my head with that inexperience curve, how it's easy to start to feel good about something when it looks the same every time. So.
Yeah, well, and I hope I'm okay saying this, right? That Ford supports this sort of thing. So when we talk about these incidents, or we have to bring it up, we have to review it, we have to write it up. It's not meant to like judge people. You know what I mean? It's not meant to. It doesn't come from a place of anger. Or even frustration. Like we can all be frustrated that incidents occur because they break stuff, they scare people, they cost us money. You know what I mean? And that's the least of the problems. Like you get beyond that in a worse incident, and there could be personal injury. You know what I mean? There could be actual loss of equipment. There could be all kinds of things. But it doesn't come from there. It comes from that we need the equipment to work so that we can work, and we need to do it as safely as possible because the only way we can ensure that you get home is if the piece of equipment you're working in is the same way, much like the people. We say we want people to go home the way they showed up. We want the equipment to end the day the way we started it because it means nothing went wrong. Yeah. And it means tomorrow it's ready to work for you again. So it's one of those things, I don't want the team to feel like we're like trying to beat a dead horse here. Oh, right. It's just, it is the piece we need. You know what I mean? If you break your shovel, tomorrow you're digging without a shovel. Or you got to buy a new shovel. You know what I mean? That's the 2 choices.
I don't remember us ever taking the dig without the shovel approach.
But you know, but you do. Like there's times you do. Something breaks, and now you don't have the tractor. Now you're loading with a loader.
Yeah. The other thing is too, like all of these incidents were of a certain category, and the problem is that there's people attached to all these things, and so it could have been worse. Yeah. So part of this is more to make sure that a little metal on metal stinks, but that's life. It's that we don't want it to get past a little metal on metal.
Yeah.
That's the basis of most of our incident reviewing, right?
Right.
Like,
We're trying to make sure it doesn't get worse.
what went wrong and how do we avoid it? You know, maybe we got potentially lucky this time that there's only metal on metal damage. How do we make sure it doesn't happen again so that it's not worse next time? So yeah, that is the derivative. And sometimes it is like training and policy and procedure, and sometimes it's experience, and other times it's personal accountability. You have to be in the moment. You've got to pay attention. You've got to be aware of your surroundings, and you've got a task to perform. And whether or not it's monotonous and you're going to do it a bunch of times, you know, we need you to do it in a manner that keeps your teammates and your equipment safe. So.
Yeah.
Well, we're just back to the gamification. Like I remember when I was grading a slope the one time, you know, somewhere between the Ramy guy and the guy with 30,000 hours, but it was the whole time. It's like I don't want to. My whole goal was not to leave a riblet or whatever they want to call them, right? So like I'm like spending my whole time focusing on it, just because you know. I know people got a lot of stuff, family, all this stuff on their brain, but it's like, you know, I'm just focusing on this slope and I don't want anything but track marks, or like, oh, I don't want to ever back drag. So I'm going to try and do every blade right so that I don't have to, you know, run the blade backwards, because the true dozer guys think that that's a crime against humanity. Yeah. I'm like, that's how I used to make things look good. Ran it forward bumping, put that in cruise control and back that thing up. But, no, so I mean, I think that might be part of it, is like if you're having a situation where you're doing a repetitive task, like, okay, figure out either how can I get better at it, or how can I make this a thing that it keeps my focus on the task at hand.
Yeah, perfect practice makes perfect execution. Yeah, so that's probably a fair place to wrap it up. Equipment damage sucks. Human damage is way worse. So the idea here is take the extra second, evaluate the situation and the circumstances, pay attention to your surroundings, and let's send all the humans and all the equipment home at the end of the day safely. So, thanks, folks, for joining us. We appreciate you, and we hope you come back for another episode.